Welcome to what could be a reenactment of the very first radio broadcast by the BBC in 1922. A short play about the amalgamation of two railways prior to the setting up of what was to become known as the Big Four in 1923. Hey up, our Peggy, what's to do?
What's to do? What's to do, Alfredo? What do I expect to be shouted at like that? You gave girl quite a scare.
Sorry to start you, Peggy, but we've been hearing things in shed. The boys told me to ask you. You've been on top corridor and all, and they said you know. What's all this about us taking over North Western? That'd be quite something, wouldn't it, missus? If little old Lanky takes over the great London and North Western Railway, Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway, Huntsbank, Manchester, Orwich, textiles and coal, girls to mill, and folk to Blackpool on Wakes Week, taking over London and North Western Railway, all London and crew, West Coast Main Line, Irish Mail. Why, it even says it's called the Premier Line. You know that, sir. Heck, if we took them over, what a northern powerhouse of a railway we'd be. I bet no one will think they're using northern powerhouse in future.
Well, Alf, I think you're getting a bit carried away there. It might all come to naught yet.
Ah, so you do know summit. Told you so, didn't I? Come on, Peggy, spilt beans.
Well, you didn't hear this from me, but it sounds like something's afoot with our Mr. Irwin.
Isn't he company secretary?
Yes, he is. And he's sent a letter to the shareholders, telling them that our board and the board of the North Western Railway are considering an amalgamation. So it's not quite a takeover, but getting towards the benefit of both railway companies, really. But you're a bright lad, Alf. I thought you read the newspapers.
Yeah, only to see how Shakers are going on, though. They've been doing well this year. They're above Wolves and Leeds and Leicester at league table. And then when it comes to cricket, I look for Lancashire. Even I look for Lancashire in cricket.
Well...
But, come on, what should I have read then, Peggy?
Well, you remember that during the war, the government had something to do with running the railways called the Railway Executive Committee. And they ran everything.
I remember that. It was to help war effort, wasn't it?
Aye, that's it.
So private railway companies weren't competing against each other all the time.
Aye, that's it, Alf. And after the war, the government liked the idea of running the railways and keeping control.
Old Charlie down Chef says it's just a way of not paying railways back for everything that they owe. Well, he's a dreadful socialist now, Charlie.
He's probably right though, Alf. So now we have the Minister of Transport to oversee railway affairs, a fellow called Sir Eric Geddes.
Geddes? I've heard of him. Isn't he from North Eastern Railway? And hasn't he got something to do with admiralty and munitions? And I think he's a big friend of the Prime Minister, isn't he?
I believe so. Talented fellow, apparently. But it's always helpful to have friends in high places, isn't it? Nothing changes there then. And I thought you said you only read sports pages, Alf. Anyway, Sir Eric has a bill. I think it's the right name for it. Well, I think it is in Parliament at the moment. And he intends to group the railways. So instead of 120 private railway companies, as there is now, we get 8 big regional groups. Presumably it will save the government some money, otherwise they wouldn't be doing it, would they? Anyway, I reckon that we'll end up going in with the North Western, the Midlands and the West and Scottish group.
Blimey, what a mouthful that is. We're going to need some long engines and big tenders to get all that on. But I still don't see what it's got to do with us taking over, amalgamating with North Western.
Well now then, from what I hear, someone at the London and North Western Railway Board has got wind of Sir Eric's plan, and he's so worried that they are going to be the big top dog in the group.
And that would never do. the hoity-toity Premier Line having to play second fiddle. But haven't we always been on good terms with them?
Oh yes, certainly this side of the Pennines. You see though, the London North Western's management reckon that if they got together with us and amalgamated, then next year we'd be in a better position to be the dominant partner in the group. See, they're clever really.
Well, that doesn't sound like improving the railway to me. It actually sounds like playing politics and looking after bosses' jobs.
Steady on, Alf, you're probably not supposed to notice that.
Well, and so, who are North Western worried about?
Well, the off-piece gossip is that the North Western managers couldn't stand being second fiddle to the Midland in the new group.
The Midland? The maroon mob from Derby? We see them up at Ellyfield now and again. The Derby Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Engines, we call them. The North Western's got not much to worry about there.
Well, they're obviously not so sure. Hey, Rod, I'm off to the market to get me mum some black pudding for her tea. So I'll have to trot. Toodly pick.
Okay, Peggy. Keep us posted. (1922). Hey up, Peggy, how's tricks?
Oh, hello, I'm fine, thanks, Alf. Haven't you shifted since I saw you here last year?
Of course I've moved, but not as far as I thought I might.
Why, what do you mean?
Well, this taking over at North Western we've been talking about.
Oh, the amalgamation, you mean?
Aye, if that's its proper name. I reckon it's been a bit of a damp squib, actually.
Why, what's the trouble, Alf?
Well, when it was all being talked about, I had a look at the map.
Yeah, and?
And, never mind London and Crewe to Carlisle, the North Western goes everywhere. I thought I might get some new mileage in. All sorts of exotic places. Peterborough, Cambridge, Carmarthen. Carmarthen, that sounds a bit foreign to me.
Carmarthen's in Wales, Alf. And anyway, you shouldn't sign the road over there. I know all about what these engines have to do. I've heard that you'll get a nosebleed if you go to the side of Bolton.
Well, that's a bit unkind, that. You know as well as I do, I get sent to Blackpool each year on Wakes Week's trains. At the very least, I thought we'd have tried out some of our high flyers on those Birmingham 2-hour expresses that the North Western are so proud of. The high flyers have made mincemeat of 120 miles in 2 hours, so it would. And there's another thing, Peggy. What's going on with timetable?
Timetable? What do you mean with timetable?
Aye, timetable. In capital letters. On the cover, London and North Western Railway. And below, in small letters, Division B, Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway, prior to amalgamation. Not sure I like the sound of that, Peggy. Makes the sound second best.
Oh, but Alf, I think you're missing the point here, Alf.
What do you mean?
Well, the timetable might look a bit different, and the coaches might not all say Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway on them, but it's the bosses. Alf, the bosses. And Mr. Weston is overall general manager of the whole amalgamating lot. Mr. Irwin is the company secretary. Mr. Davis is the superintendent of the Northern Division. And I'm delighted to say that Mr. Hughes is still the chief mechanical engineer. So that's a good, solid, lanky team at the top of the so-called new London and North Western Railway.
Well, that's a relief. It's good news about Mr. Hughes. I bet the North Western lads can't wait to get over some of our dreadnoughts. They'll flatten out that shack bank for him. But I hope Mr. Hughes doesn't get sidetracked into putting names on our engines like he's done with North Western. They seem stuck on the idea of putting names on. Names like Patience, Vindictive, Witch, Shark. Who'd ever heard such daft things?
And J.A.F. Aspinall, don't you forget, Al.
Eh?
Mr. Aspinall, our greatest engineer. One of their engines is named after him. Can't be all that bad.
No, I suppose not. But I'm still uneasy about all this amalgamation, Peggy. It still seems more about jockeying from position rather than running a railway.
I'm sure it'll all turn out all right in the end, Alf. Our bosses have put themselves in a strong position for when the grouping comes next year. Here, have you heard what they're going to call this new railway?
Now go on.
The LMS, the London, Midland and Scottish.
There you are then, Peggy. I don't see a lot of Lancashire and Yorkshire in that. No North Western for that matter.
Alf, you worry too much. Now excuse me, I'm off to the market.
More black pudding?
No, not this time. My mother's varying a diet. She wants some tripe and babby's yets. Cheerio, Alf.
Yeah, bye. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, back to the present day.